It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of January 26, 2001. Only two movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Jennifer Lopez and Matthew McConaughey in The Wedding Planner. As the title indicates, Jennifer Lopez is the wedding planner. She's an ambitious, hardworking, extremely organized woman, and she knows exactly what to do and say to make any wedding a spectacular event. But when Mary falls literally for a handsome doctor, played by Matthew McConaughey, her busy yet uncomplicated life is turned upside down. He's the groom in the biggest wedding of her career. Will she help him walk down the aisle with his internet tycoon girlfriend, or will Mary finally get to be the bride herself? When it comes to love, you can never plan what's going to happen unless you're a romantic comedy, and you know good and goddamn well what's going to happen here. I mean, this is, first of all, Jennifer Lopez cannot find love. How am I supposed to buy into that? I mean, have you seen Jennifer Lopez even back then? Yeah, clearly she's going to have a hard time finding somebody. I mean, just clearly that's going to happen. But yeah, it's one of those movies. It's one of those romantic comedies where you either go along with it or you just have to really trash it because it's just not a good movie. Well, let's start with the chemistry between Lopez and McConaughey. I mean, it's fine. It's nothing too spectacular or nothing too amazing, but it's far from the worst chemistry in a romantic comedy I've ever seen. I mean, it's passable, but it doesn't really do anything to really up itself to another level, and it doesn't help that the rest of the movie is kind of your typical comedy, is bad rom-com cliches, bad rom-com storylines, like you know what's going to happen, the jokes really aren't going to be there, and we all know what's going to happen when it's all said and done. It's basically going to be the fact that these two will eventually get together in the end, and what do you know? They get together at the end. Really fooled us there. Not really, but I don't know. Like, these movies are very, very tough for me to get behind, really. Like, again, it all depends on if your romantic lead's chemistry is very good, and it's fine, like I said, but it's not anywhere near as good as it should be for this to really succeed. Like, you really need this to be really damn good in order for me to look past the fact that it's a mediocre storyline, not a lot of good jokes in it. And unfortunately, I can't really say that. I can say, though, this is the first film directed by Adam Shankman, who has made more than a couple of movies I've actually kind of enjoyed. I thought A Walk to Remember was okay. I was one of those few people that really thought the ridiculousness of bringing down the house kind of worked, and you can say the same thing about The Pacifier. I like Cheaper by the Dozen, too. I like Bedtime Stories. I'm one of the few people that really likes Rock of Ages. Hairspray, I probably think, is his best movie overall. I like What Man Won. I mean, he has made a lot of good movies, but this and Disenchanted are probably two of his worst movies in general. And actually, now that I think about it, when I look back at Disenchanted, this probably is not as bad as Disenchanted is. I think Disenchanted didn't work because it was a sequel that was coming way too late, and it was a story that really did not work altogether compared to the first Enchanted movie. But there's at least something in here I like about it, but Disenchanted, not so much. But we'll eventually get to that one down the road. But The Wedding Planner, I've seen worse, but I have seen much better, too. So, it's probably a masterpiece compared to the last movie we have here, and that is Sugar and Spice. So basically the storyline of this is that you have a group of high school cheerleaders who conspire and commit armed robbery, with one of them becoming pregnant and desperate for money, and one of them is about to marry James Marsden in this movie. The four of the ladies in here: Marla Sokoloff, Marley Shelton, 5 of them, actually. Melissa George, Mina Savari, Rachel Blanchard. Decent actresses on their own, and I like this premise. It's a fun premise in general, but it's one of those movies that really backfires because of the lackluster comedy. I mean, sitcoms on TV back then were much smarter than this movie is. I mean, hell, even sitcoms nowadays, like even broadcast sitcoms, like on CBS and NBC, would be looking at this and going, we're much funnier than that, or we're not even trying to be funny. And it's just like, it just doesn't work in the end. It's a film that I think has a lot of potential to it, just from the storyline, just from the storyline and the concept alone. But the basic idea overall is just kind of like, yeah, it just didn't really work out in the long run. And it's one of those movies where The writer of this actually changed her name to a pseudonym because Alan Smithy was no longer usable anymore. And this person that actually wrote this is Lana Williams, who we've talked about before. She's been a writing assistant on The Simpsons. She was also in Drop Dead Gorgeous, which I talked about that one as a criminally underrated film. And this probably could have been a whole lot better, but again, it just has the really lackluster comedy to go along with it. It feels like a film that was coming out just because, Bring It On was a big success the previous summer. And so, Warner Brothers basically said, hey, we got to get in on this. But Bring It On was much better than this movie. And this one, it's not bad. It's a bad movie, but the actresses, I think, are trying their best. It's not really helping them all that much that the writing's not that great. And again, there could have been so much more to it if the comedy had been much funnier, if the writing had been much more clever, but unfortunately, it just doesn't work in the end. It's a real disappointment because the premise was very promising, and in the end, it just didn't live up to that potential at the end. So that's my thoughts on Sugar and Spice. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll head into February on the next episode with 3 movies, including the horror thriller Valentine. We also have Freddie Prinze Jr. and Monica Potter in Head Over Heels, and Kirk Cameron in Left Behind the Movie. So 3 films to look at next time around. We'll delve into those in the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. Now don't go too far away, because coming up on Time About the Movies Flashback, we're flashing back to July 22nd, 1988, and we got 5 movies to look at, including Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, Pee Wee Herman's Big Return and Big Top Pee Wee, the infamous Caddyshack 2, Mr. North, and Pascali's Island. So 5 films to look at on this week's Time About the Movies Flashback, which will be coming up right after this.